Good morning, church.
Good morning.
Welcome to worship. And welcome to all that are joining us online as well. Whoever you are, wherever you are, whether you're in the sanctuary or watching us online, we are so glad you've decided to be a part of our worship this morning. Today we are in the midst of our sermon series called I've Been Meaning to Ask. And so a couple weeks ago we began with the question, where are you from? And we heard Jesus' response to that, come and see. And then last week we asked the question, where does it hurt? Recognizing the truth that we all have been hurt at some point in our lives. And we talked about how we can bear witness to each other's pain as well as our own. And today we'll take a look at the question, what do you need? Well, obviously, we know that we all have very unique needs. And the other truth is that we need each other. And we can't assume to know what's best for others. It also prompts us to reflect on our own needs, priorities, and desires. So we've had the opportunity to pick up the conversation cards. We still have some in back. If you've not yet picked one up, pick it up. Because even when the series is over, and one of the things I'll say to you next week, you know how you do with a deck of cards? Take them and shuffle them, and continue using those questions for meaningful conversations. So this morning, just like we've been doing in this series, we're going to begin with my answering one of the conversation cards for this week. This is this week's color. And the question that I'm going to answer, just as if you were asking me this question, is what's a gift, tangible or intangible, that you've received that you'll never forget? So, here goes. When I was little, apparently my older brother Ed, 5 years older than I am, did not want to be embarrassed by his sister as she started school. According to my parents, he taught me to read. That began a lifelong adventure of visiting faraway lands, learning new ideas, entering into another's life story, and all the many ways that reading adds to our lives. I can still get lost in a book, to the point that I don't even notice what's going on around me. That's how my adventure in reading began, and I will always be grateful. Yet, that's only part of my answer to this question this morning. I was kind of a mixture as a child. I was definitely a tomboy. Loved to do lots of things outside, especially climbing, all those types of things. But I was also a bit of a bookworm. And I loved school. I was one of the ones that when school started, I laid out exactly what I was going to wear. I had my school supplies all packed. I loved school. Actually, I've always said as an adult, if someone wanted to pay me to go to school, I'd keep going. I enjoy learning. But back then, I was a bit of an overachiever. You know, the first one, the teacher asks the question, put the hand up and give the answer. Well, that sounds like a good thing, doesn't it? It began to become a problem in school because I got teased and bullied because of that. I began to show up less in class, not raising my hand, not participating as I had before, no longer haunting the school library to find a new book, and not even reading as much at home. Now, the full answer to that question that you posed for me today, if we were in this conversation. My gift came from someone outside of the family, yet a part of my family, my godmother, Caroline. Knowing what was happening, she came up with a brilliant idea. A field trip with her into the city. Always great fun to be with her. This time, she had an agenda. A special lunch and a special tour. She took me to Doubleday Publishing in New York City. We talked to an editor about books, about authors, how they select the books, how they work with that author, and how it comes to publication. We learned about how the manuscripts are received and what the editors do when they get those manuscripts. We watched books being printed and books being bound. And I was given several new books to take home to read. My godmother, in that trip, re-energized my love for reading by showing me the process it takes for a book to come into my hands, into my heart, into my mind. With my confidence restored and the gift of reading affirmed in many ways, she also helped me restore being myself. And that is a true gift indeed. So I'll tell one more story about my brother. Sometimes he made my reading real. I remember in junior high, I was absorbed in the book The Boston Strangler, reading about that. Any idea what my brother did? I bet you can guess. Came up behind me and grabbed me around the neck. Yeah. Isn't it fun having siblings? So pick a question this week out of your packet. And if you don't have one, get a packet. Pick a question and have a meaningful conversation with someone. Because we learn more about each other. We develop our relationships. We grow our relationships when we listen to the stories of the lives of others. So now let's get into our worship, shall we? I invite you to stand wherever you are. If you're comfortable doing so, let's share our call to worship responsibly and then sing our opening hymn. Family of faith, this must be the place. This is the place for connection and growth, for community and hope. This must be the place for questions like, where are you from and what do you need? For whispers of, I've been thinking of you and I've been meaning to ask. This must be the place because all belong here. All are welcome here. All hurt and joy, needs and prayers, dreams and love are welcome here. God is near, let us worship holy God. We sing together, immortal, invisible, God only wise. party last weekend? Was it fun? It was a birthday party. Whose birthday was it? Yes. It was Trisha, wasn't it? And we missed you last week, but we knew that you were someplace having fun with your family. Families are special, aren't they? Yeah. So when you need something, who do you go to? Oh, you went to a hotel for your trip. Yes. So when you're at the hotel and you needed something, who did you go ask? Say, I need a blanket. Who'd you ask? Maybe somebody out here. Your mommy. And daddy. And who else is there? And grandma. Yes. So when we need something, whatever it is, maybe we got a little cut, and what do we need then? A Band-Aid. Yeah. And if we need a Band-Aid, we have to ask somebody to help us, don't we? You know, I sometimes try to put Band-Aids on by myself, and I don't do very well. I need somebody to help me, too. Okay, so you need food sometimes, don't you? What? Look at that. Do you have an owie now? Oh dear. We have to be careful, but sometimes we have things that hurt. And then we have to go to mom or dad or grandma and say, ow, can you help me? And what do? They might put Band-Aid on. What else might they do? Do they ever kiss your booty? Oh yeah. Yeah. That helps us feel better, doesn't it? They saw it, they took care of it, and they gave us a little bit of love around that. That's what we all need. We need somebody to notice if something hurts. We need somebody to help us cover it up if it's a cut. But we really need those hugs and kisses. Yeah. So we can feel better and we can go off and play again. Yeah, when we need something, we have certain people we go to and we ask them, can you help me? And then we have to tell them what we need, don't we? Should we pray about that? You know, Jesus, sometimes things happen. Sometimes we're sad, sometimes we're mad, sometimes we're hurt. And we don't like to just hold that inside of us. We have to tell somebody. Yeah, we have to tell somebody. Close our eyes. Is that what we do in prayer? Do you know you can pray with your eyes open too? You can. Yeah. Okay, shall we try this again? Let's pray. Yeah. So we thank you for giving us moms and dads and grandpas and grandmas and aunts and uncles and teachers, all sorts of people that will help us when we need something. Right? We want to thank Jesus for those people that help us. So how about, can you both, when I say 1, 2, 3, say thank you? Okay, you ready? 1, 2, 3, thank you. Good job. Okay, you can go back. Thanks for joining me. So as we enter into this time of confession, how many of you have been having a bad day and somebody offered you unsolicited advice? We've all been there, haven't we? How many of you have ever had a bad week and had someone rush in with dozens of suggestions about how you might fix things? As if you hadn't thought of those things before. We've all been there, and if we're honest, we've all done that. It's a part of our humanity. Our scriptures today remind us that in the face of hurt, what people really need is not a list of advice or solutions, but the simple presence of love. So together, in this responsive prayer, let us pray to God today, acknowledging that we are works in progress. And relationships always come with mistakes and then confession. So together, please join me responsibly in the bold prayer. Gracious God, sometimes life feels like cooking with flour. It looks like it should be easy, but we always make a mess. This is particularly true when it comes to our relationships. We so desperately long to say the right thing, to be the right thing, to find the right solution, that we overstep the line. Forgive us for assuming the place you fill. Forgive us for imagining that we and all our humanity could possibly fix all the hurt in the world. Instead, give us the grace and strength to stand by our loved ones in their moments of need, to witness to their hurt without trying to fix it. You are God, we are not. Teach us how to be a friend. Teach us how to ask, what do you need? Teach us how to point to you. Gratefully we pray. Amen. Well, family of faith, no matter how many times you have spoken without listening, assumed without knowing, offered without asking, or rushed without waiting, you are forgiven. God knows your desire and your intent. God knows when we try and miss the mark, and God surrounds us with grace. So hear and believe the good news of the gospel, and together, every day is a new day for love. We are claimed, we are forgiven. We are invited into relationship. Thanks be to God for growth and grace that knows no end. Amen. So our affirmation of faith this morning is based on relationships and when someone is in need. Let's join together in this unison affirmation. We believe in relationships. We believe in asking hard questions, in showing up for one another, and in sitting together through the pain. We believe in listening with grace, learning with curiosity, and apologizing with sincerity. We believe in asking for help, saying what we need, trusting that no degree of vulnerability could strip us of God's love. We believe in trying our best and offering grace when our best is not good, is not enough. And we believe that God is in all relationships, modeling for us the value of community through the relationships of the Trinity. So we love today, and we strive to love even more tomorrow. Let it be so. Amen. Let us pray. God of long winters and longer summers, in the word of Paul, do your best to come to us quickly. Come to us with loud praise and joy, or appear to us in a still small voice. Come to us through friends, or come to us through strangers. Come to us in this text and in this hour of worship, and come to us quickly if you can. We are seeking you. We are always seeking you. With grateful hearts cracked open by love, we pray. Amen. So we are beginning in the book of Job. And Job has experienced trouble. He has lost everything. He has lost his livelihood, his family, and his health. His grief is deep and profound. In the midst of deep despair, 3 friends leave their homes and come to him. They bring a ministry of presence. These words from Job chapter 2. Now when Job's 3 friends heard of these troubles that had come upon him, each of them set out from his home. Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamanite. They met together to go and console and comfort him. When they saw him from a distance, they did not recognize him. And they raised their voices and wept aloud. They tore their robes and threw dust in the air upon their heads. They sat with him on the ground for 7 days and 7 nights. And no one spoke a word to him, for they saw that his suffering was very great. Well, Job really asks for nothing in our passage, but in Timothy, Paul answered the question of what he needs with a list of needs, wants, and his desire for justice, and his list is long. From 2 Timothy chapter 4. Do your best to come to me soon, for Demas, in love with this present world, has deserted me and gone to Thessalonica. Crescens has gone to Galatia, Titus to Dalmatia. Only Luke is with me. Get Mark and bring him with you, for he is useful in my ministry. I have sent Tychicus to Ephesus. When you come, bring the cloak that I left with Carpus and Troas, also the books, and above all the parchments. Alexander the coppersmith did me great harm, and the Lord will pay him back for his deeds. You also must be aware of him, for he strongly opposed our message. At my first defense, no one came to my support, but all deserted me. May it not be counted against them, but the Lord stood by me and gave me strength, so that through me the message might be fully proclaimed and all Gentiles might hear. So I was rescued from the lion's mouth. The Lord will rescue me from every evil attack and save me for his heavenly kingdom. To him be the glory forever and ever. Amen. Word of God, word of life. Thanks be to God. So today's question, as I shared earlier, is, what do you need? Well, when we read the scriptures, the Bible is certainly not lacking in people in need. Over and over again, as we read the scriptures, we encounter people who are in the midst of situations that have no easy fix, no easy solution. And Job, perhaps, is the worst of all. He lost everything. His children, his property, his livelihood, and then finally, his health. And while there are a lot of different directions we could go in studying the book of Job, the focus today is on his friend's immediate response to Job's tremendous need. And if you're familiar with the story, you may remember that the friends did start out very well. You will also remember that a little later in the book of Job, their helpfulness went a little bit off the rails, but they started out really well. The scripture says once they heard what happened, they came to Job. They left their homes, their families, their schedules, however busy they were, and they showed up together to be with Job. When they saw him and what terrible state he was in, they wept. They tore their clothes and threw dust in the air on their heads. His physical suffering is so great that at first they do not even recognize him. Their emotional response is in direct proportion to Job's suffering. They could now see how serious it was, and the traumas in life they knew their friend had experienced. You've been there, haven't you? Seeing the suffering of another, the pain and hurting for them, but unsure, really unsure, what emotion should I show? Yeah, you are correct. We do want to avoid making ourselves the center of attention by making it seem that the one who is hurting may need to comfort us. Yet at the same time, it is appropriate to grieve with those who are grieving. To grieve alongside of someone who is grieving is an act of presence, of solidarity, of coming alongside someone so that they don't feel alone. To grieve alongside someone who is grieving is a holy act of embodied love. That's what Job's friends did. They did something that is both difficult and beautiful. They sat with him, and they sat with him in silence for 7 days, seeming to know that words in that moment would be absolutely inadequate. I mean, they might have been tempted to offer a pep talk, an opinion, a word of advice. But if they were tempted, they resisted that temptation, at least for 7 days. They simply offered their presence to come alongside Job in the midst of suffering, so he knew he was not alone. And what his friends demonstrated in this early part of the story is called empathy. I don't know if you're familiar with Brene Brown. She's an author, a researcher, and a social worker. She's all about how we make meaningful connections with each other, and she talks in very helpful ways about the difference between empathy and sympathy. I highly recommend reading any or all of her books. She shares that empathy builds, fuels connection, and sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy is feeling with people. Empathy is a sacred space. It's like when someone is kind of in a deep, dark hole, and they shout out from the bottom and say, "I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed." And then we who are at the top, we look at them and we're compelled to climb down with them into the pit. And we say, "Hey, I'm here for you, and you're not alone." Sympathy is different. When you look down from the top of the pit and you go, "Wow, looks like you're in a bit of a pickle. Gee, I'm sorry you're down there. That looks kind of lonely." Can you hear the difference? There is a standing apart, offering the sympathy, but not joining in with the person, entering in, being that presence like Job's friends were. You know, empathy is a choice. And it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something inside myself that understands that feeling. Rarely, if ever, should an empathetic response start with "at least." Someone's in pain. Well, at least it's not. Or at least it isn't. Or at least you still have this. It's not very helpful, is it? Those kind of statements. Empathy says you enter and sit with them in whatever it is that they're going through. Yet we do it all the time, don't we? Make those "at least" statements. Because you know what? Someone had just shared with us something that's incredibly painful. And what we're trying to do is put a silver lining on it. And let's be honest. In the face of difficult situations, we try to make things better. If we're truly honest, what we're trying to make better is our discomfort that we're trying to face. It is hard to be with someone in pain. It raises up in us a painful response when we care for someone else. What do? Well, if I would share something with you that's really difficult, I'd rather you say, "Whoa, I don't even know what to say right now. I'm just so glad you told me." Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes it better is that connection, that relationship. So sympathy creates disconnection. It's kind of like pushing yourself back from the situation. "Oh, I'm sorry, that's too bad," but backing away. Empathy is entering and feeling with the person. Feeling with them. And what it does is it draws us closer together. Not because anything is fixed or better, but something somehow is better on some deeper level. Because a genuine, caring connection has been made. Job's friends, at the beginning of this tale, didn't stand at the top of the pit and offer him little platitudes of, it will get better, it's not so bad. No, they were empathetic. They entered into Job's experience and they felt with him. Remember that word that in the Greek is only used in Jesus about how feelings, that deep feeling of concern for others twists the gut? That's kind of what empathy does. We feel their pain. We don't take it away, but we enter it with them. They cried. They they tore their clothing. That was an ancient Jewish tradition. An expression of profound grief and distress. Rending the clothing was a sign of exposing your heart, taking away that which covers it and protects our heart from feeling with another. And then Job's friend climbed down in that pit with him and sat in silence. So he wasn't alone in his suffering. Job, in the middle of that trauma and suffering, didn't and probably couldn't even say to his friends what he needed. What they offered was empathy, presence, and embodied love. And that is always a good place to start. Now with Paul, the situation is a little bit different. Paul's very clear in this letter what he needs. Like Job, he needs the presence of others to support him and help him in his work. So he writes to Timothy. And he asks him to come soon. And he asks him, bring Mark with you. And Paul's instructions to Timothy is an interesting snapshot of Paul's day-to-day life and the needs that Paul has. In this scripture, we hear very practical things. Bring my favorite cloak. Bring my books, and especially the parchment, so I can write. You know what it is? It's as if Paul is saying, bring me the things that bring me comfort. Bring me the things that give me reassurance. The things that will help me feel like myself again. It was quite a practical list to help Paul feel like Paul again. And there's some emotional stuff in here too. Because Paul doesn't shy away with saying what he needs. And one of his needs in that moment is he needs to vent about people that he's trusted. People who have deserted him. And some who have hurt him deeply. You know, I don't know that we always realize when we read these letters from Paul that what we're really doing is reading somebody else's man. It is Paul's letter to Timothy. And it gets really personal. Because Paul is angry. Especially at the friends who have left him. Paul is upset that he is deserted in his hour of need. And there's a lot of those deep emotions that are expressed here, including spiritual needs. Yet even in the midst of these problems that he's having and these strugglings he's facing, did you notice how he moves on in this? He still wants to assure Timothy that God is with him in it, and the ministry will continue. There's a powerful lesson here for us. Even when our time seems the darkest, God is still with us and is at work in our lives and through us into the lives of others. You know, if we're honest, we've all been there, haven't we? We've had someone we have trusted, and they proved unworthy of our trust. It's also true that some of us, at some point in time in our lives, have felt abandoned. I can't believe he didn't show up. She promised she would come, but she didn't. And there's a spiritual impact to that. And Paul is expressing his spiritual needs and the confidence in the midst of all of that God is still good. A lot of stuff packed in a few short verses. And we don't know these people. We don't know the circumstances behind this, but we do know the needs that Paul is expressing. We know what it means to need something that in the grand scheme of things sometimes seems to be minor. One thing we learn from Paul is that when we do know what we need, it's okay to ask. And so many of us, myself included, are not very good at that, are we? We don't like to ask for help. We don't want to trouble our friends or our family. Or maybe we don't want to have to acknowledge that we have a need in the first place. But we all know when someone truly cares about you, they're anxious to find a way to help in any way that they can. Oh, there's something else I think we can relate to in this passage, isn't there, about that need once in a while to vent. To be able to talk to someone who won't judge us, tell on us, or dismiss us, or try and fix us, when all we need to do is complain, to say it out loud. And we also know the deeper stuff. We know what it means to need encouragement and reassurance. We also know there can be a struggle for us to say what we need when someone asks us. It can be a struggle. Sometimes we have this sense within that we need something, and sometimes it's even hard to articulate. We feel that, but sometimes it's hard to even say, to even know what it is we truly need. Oh, just forget about it. I'll be fine. I'll be okay. Yeah. So I'm going to keep it simple this morning, and we're going to look at this from the vantage point of the person asking the question, what do you need? And some practical steps for us to take. So the first step, we have to be willing to ask the question. That's the starting point. You've got to ask it, and then you've got to mean it. When you ask, you have to be serious about it. Don't ask this question. Don't ask this question unless you intend to respond to their answer honestly and seriously. Because when we ask someone what they need, when we ask that question, there are two things that happen. First of all, we open ourselves up to opportunity. Asking someone what they need means we might be able to respond in ways that could actually help. We have an opportunity here. When I say what you need, I have an opportunity then to serve. Secondly, and I think you're going to like the first one better. Secondly, when we ask this question, we open ourselves up to responsibility. We are to bear one another's burdens. And that doesn't mean taking the burden away. It means sharing it, carrying it together. We bear one another's burdens. If we're asking each other what we need, what we're saying is that we're willing to help meet that need. Now the second step. When we ask the question, when we're willing to take the chance and tell what they need, pay attention to the answer. Listen. Because sometimes we ask the question right and we already assume that we know what they need. And so we might not really listen to them. We're just going to run with our assumption. And maybe somebody's struggling. And maybe they've already decided what they need, or we imagine what we would need if we were in that situation. Or maybe we've been in that exact situation and we remember what worked for us and we assume that the same thing will work for them. Have you ever done that before? If we don't listen, if we don't truly hear what they need, if we forge ahead and do what we think needs to be done, who are we serving? Ourselves. Listen, pay attention to the answer, be a listening ear. You may not need to be a speaking mouth at all. And maybe you could be a helping hand. The third step is to be present. This happens in several ways, but one of them is just to show up. Be there. Be there with people. Be there for people. That is something that Paul in his grief says didn't happen for him. His friends weren't there for him in his time of need. That's painful for us. So be there for one another. Be engaged. Be attentive. The fourth step. Follow through. If someone says, I need this, and you say, okay, I'll do that. Well then, do it. I mean, this is how we build trust with one another. That's probably the most important advice that we can be given. If you say you're going to be there, be there. If you say you're going to call, do it. If you say you're going to bring a meal, do that. If you say you're going to check on them next week, check on them next week. If you say you're going to pray for them, pray for them. If you say you're going to do something, then do it. So our question this week, what do you need? Let's review the steps. They're pretty simple. Step 1, be willing to ask the question, what do you need? Step 2, pay attention to the answer. Step 3, be present. Show up. Be there. Step 4, do it. Follow through on what you've said you would do. So today, I've been meaning to ask, what do you need? Whatever the answer, may someone, maybe even one of us today, follow those steps and embrace the love, the empathy, and the action. What do we most need in our lives? We need to be heard. We need to be validated. We need to know that people care, that people are there for us. And how do we do that? Is by showing empathy, showing up, asking the question, and then being guided by that answer. Amen. When we love someone in need, it's very easy to give. When we show up with casseroles and prayer blankets, we send cards and we make phone calls. We babysit the kids and we drop off flowers. We don't think twice about it because when we love someone in need, it is easy to give. In worship, when we give our offering, what we're declaring is that it's not just those we love who are worthy of our gifts, but God is worthy of our gifts. And strangers whom we've never met are worthy of our gifts. in worship when we give through the offering, as we do, when we come in or as we leave. We are declaring that all of creation deserves love and care, which is a radical notion in a hurting world. So today, as a way to practice being in relationship and growing closer to one another, we give to the mission and ministry of our church. For when we love, it is always easy to give. Let us bless our gifts with the doxology. We honor those prayers that you have brought. Both thanksgiving for the joys in your life and for the concerns in your life. And we have some to name today. Some of you may know, because the prayer chain was activated, that Ginny Itzen had emergency surgery. They have removed her colon and part of her small intestine and some lymph nodes, and that is gone for testing. Just hold the family in prayer. I have to say, I was moved to tears on and off yesterday because that family has gone through too much. So please, hold them in your prayers. The whole family. The girls are there. Karen's back and forth. They're. And I will be there this afternoon. We just need to surround them with a lot of love and a lot of prayer. I would ask your prayers also for the family of Jerry Schmidt. There will be a visitation at Peterson Saturday from 2 to 4, and then at 4 o'clock I will be conducting a prayer service for community and family for his life. I talked to my son yesterday and have permission to share with you that we covet your prayers as well. Our little grandson is in too big a hurry. Our daughter-in-law has to stay in Sioux Falls so that she's near the hospital. They're trying to keep him there until at least the end of the month. Actually, full term will be September 21st. So the blessings of God and the Holy Spirit that we had already planned, our granddaughters to be with us this whole week, which it gave them the freedom, to be together in Sioux Falls and to work with the doctors there. So we would appreciate your prayers to keep that little dude from being in such a big hurry, and just extra prayers for Emily. The kids start school. Our oldest granddaughter starts junior high, and she won't be able to be there the first day of school too. So there's a lot around it. So we would appreciate your prayers. Let us pray. God of the here and now, my, oh my, how we need you. This world seems to turn upside down all the time. Our center of gravity feels off. In moments like these, we are particularly grateful for the care you offer and the stability of friends. So today we say a prayer of thanks for the people in our lives who take time to ask, what do you need? We think this morning of those that we have lifted up. May we be able to answer their question in many ways. We think of the people that are part of our lives that we simply sometimes take for granted. Maybe it's the person who waits on us in the grocery store and helps load our car. For the neighbor across the street who leaves us things, messages, is a part of our lives. For the friend in the pew who texts when we're not there. For the parents and children who celebrate the good in life. For the teachers who pay attention. For mentors who offer their support. For all of those who are there in times of need. and also care for us in ways that we often don't appreciate. Gracious God, help us to be those people for others. Give us the eyes to see when our neighbors are in need and the wisdom to ask, what do you need? Stop our assumptions cold in their tracks and instead carve out space in us to listen. We are practicing breathing deeply. We are practicing being still. We are practicing opening ourselves up to you. We are practicing listening slowly and intentionally. We are practicing sitting with our pain and honoring it. We are practicing saying what we need and not being afraid to ask for help. In all of this, we need you. Oh, how we need you. Lord, we think of all the need in the world. We think of what's going on in Afghanistan and how we're grieving and praying for those who need to be taken out safely. We think of the weather and what is happening on our East Coast as Omri comes in with the heavy rain and wind. We think of these firefighters on and on, week after week after week. And now these fires that are in Minnesota. We pray for those who respond. We pray for people to be safe. Lord, we think of the rising cases of COVID. And we have to be honest, we thought it was over. We thought it was behind us. And we're reminded again of how we need to care for one another. So gather us in and hold us close. Be with us in our waiting and in our praying. Be with us in our grief and our sorrow. Be in our relationships that we might be blessed with friends who support us and that we might be friends who can bless others. With deep gratitude and true humility, we pray the words your Son taught us to pray, saying together, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Our series song, A Covenant of Grace, is inserted in your bulletin.
Thank you.
dismissal. Family of faith, as you leave this place, may God grant you the curiosity to counter assumptions, the vulnerability to befriend, the bravery to speak your truth, the wisdom to listen, the strength to ask for help, the resiliency to choose love, even when it's hard, and the awareness of the Holy Spirit always beside you. In the name of the great connector, love itself, go in peace. Amen.